All right, I think we're recording. Hey, Mr. Sanders, I'm getting ready to do my lesson four, recreation four. All right, so I'm going to share my screen to Photopia, where I will be pulling up my my Photoshop file, PSD file. I'm going to be working with a project that I did in one of Miss Smith's classes. This is for Tubman Battery, a black-owned battery company. And what I'll be doing is manipulating the layers and the elements in the image to reconfigure some of it. So I'll be following along in the book to make sure I hit all of the high points. First things first, open the file. Of course, we've done that. Use the layers panel. So here we have the layers panel on the right side of the screen. Of course, it could be on another side of the screen if you change the settings from default. Rename and copy a layer. Here we have a few text layers, in capital letters. I have battery and Tubman. So what I'll do to rename the layer is change that to lowercase battery and Tubman with a capital T. And as for duplicating a layer, let's duplicate an arbitrary layer just to show it being duplicated, but not for the purposes of actually doing anything with it. I'm going to use Command J, or rather, you can use Command J, but what I'll be using is the right click and then click duplicate layer and creates background copy 2. I'm going to delete this because I don't need that layer, but that is how you do that. Then viewing individual layers. By holding the Option key on the Mac, I can see, and holding the Option key and clicking on the eye, I can see that layer alone. Then by holding the Option key and clicking again, I can go back to where I can see all of the other layers that were previously open to being seen. Next, I'll be adding a border to a layer. I want to add a border to the layers Tubman and battery. So holding Shift, I'm clicking on both of those layers, and I'm going to layer style, and I'm going to stroke. I'm going to go ahead and leave it red just for default. And I'm going to click OK. All right. So I did actually only do one at a time, so that's fine. As a matter of fact, I see some potential there. So I'm going to go, I'm in my layers panel. I'm clicking on the Tubman layer, and I can see that there's an effects addition to the layer now because I added the stroke. I'm going to increase the size of the stroke to 8 so it's more visible. And by clicking OK, I confirm it. And now I have a red outline or stroke around the word Tubman. All right, rearranging layers. Suppose we'll look at the battery image over here. Suppose I don't want it to be on top of the green background, but rather I'd like for it to be beneath the green background. I can click on the layer battery image that has the picture of the batteries here. I can click and I can drag until I get beneath the layer of green, which is called layer 2 in this document. Now, as you can see, the image of the batteries is beneath that layer, and therefore it is no longer visible in that area. I'm going to use Command Z to undo this because I don't actually want that change, but that is how you do make that adjustment, changing the opacity of a layer. Similarly, I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to show how to do it, but I'll probably switch it back So opacity is located over here as well as in other areas, but here will be fine. And as I drag it back, you can see that the opacity of the Tubman battery image is reducing. So by clicking enter, rather on this program, by clicking away, I can go ahead and confirm that. Now I will undo using Command Z again. Duplicating a layer and changing the blending mode. I'm going to manipulate the battery image layer again. I'll duplicate it by using Command J this time, which is the shortcut for right click, duplicate layer. Now this better image copy layer, I will change the blending mode on. I'll do that by going to the layer tab, layer styles, then I'll go to blending options. I'm going to add an I'm going to add an outer glow. So by clicking the check mark, I've applied it, but then by clicking on the actual word, I'll be able to change some of the settings. So I will change the spread to reach further, and I'll change the size. And as you can see over here, the glow is appearing now. And I'll click OK to confirm those changes. Next on the list, we have resizing and rotating layers. The words Black Power look nice here, but suppose I want them to be resized or rotated. I'll click on the layer I'll click on the layer of Black Power, which is titled Black Power as well. And I will use Control T to activate Free Transform. I can alternatively, by pressing Escape to cancel that transformation, and undo to undo the transformation. Excuse me. I can alternatively go to Edit and Free Transform without using the shortcut. Here I can rotate the text. If I hold Shift, I can rotate it in specific increments, in organized increments. Or I can also adjust the size of the text, whether that be uniform by holding Shift or non-uniform by releasing it. All right, so what I would do is increase the size of Black Power, and I will also, well, that might be about it. I might only do that. I don't think I want to rotate it. All right. Next is using a filter to create artwork. We'll use the green background for this. By clicking on layer 2, I'll go up to filter, and then I'll use, let me see. Let's use the filter gallery and choose actually, let's not go that route. Okay. Yeah, I see what I was doing wrong. I was trying to use filter gallery. Instead, let's use layer 2 and let's go to filter, then render, and we'll do clouds. And so as you can see, that creates a background that looks like clouds. I'm not satisfied with that as well, let's see, we may stick with that as the background. Let's find out. Dragging to add a new layer. All right, in this instance, we're going to go to the Finder window, and I'm going to click and drag a file, excuse me, and bring it into the workspace. So I'll share my screen to see all of that. All right, I'm going to click on the registered trademark button image. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag, and at least it shows up in the image in the workspace. All right. Adding text. We've already seen text in Black Power and Tubman Battery. So I can show how I actually got those there by adding text. I'll go ahead and make battery invisible for now. I'll click on the text tool over in this toolbar. Once I've got the text tool selected, I'll click anywhere in the image and then begin typing. This is going to be test. Once I've finished typing, I can click the check mark and that will confirm my selection, my typing layer. Then I can use the move tool to move it around as please. So Tubman test. Then we have applying a gradient to a layer. We'll stick with the well, actually, let's go with the registered trademark layer, which you can see here right now. Rather, let's not do that one. Let's do this layer here, which is a Black Power fist. It's actually invisible to our site right now, but I'm going to make it visible by clicking on the eye. Then I'm going to use the move key to do nothing. Actually, I'm going to leave it where it's at. So I'm clicking on layer 1, which is the name of this Black Power layer, but I'm going to go ahead and rename it. So I'm going to call it Black Power icon. Now I'm going to use the gradient tool in order to color this. Excuse me. Okay, and so what I will do is I'll first make my selection in the Black Power hand icon. I'm using the magic wand tool right now, so I will go ahead and actually, no, I'd rather use the marquee tool. I'm just going to make a broad selection around it using this using the marquee tool, which I access by pressing the M key. Now that I have the selection area made, I'm going to press G to access the gradient tool. I can see that my colors are black and white, and so that will do fine. And I'm going to click and drag to apply the gradient. Now, because I want to still see the hand, I'm going to turn the opacity down to 50 and see how that looks. Pressing enter to confirm. I accidentally did it and it affected the hand, not the gradient, which I'm about to do. So let's try that again. What I need to do is before clicking and dragging, I need to go to the details up here. These are the details of the gradient tool. So I should change the opacity on this header first. There we go. So now you can still see the hand behind. All right, and I'm going to press Command D to deselect that area. Applying a layer style. All right. I'm going to adjust the layer style of something. How about test? Let's go to test and go to layer style, and we're going to choose bevel and emboss. And we're going to go ahead and turn up those parameters, the depth and the size. Let's turn the size back down. You can see the adjustments being made over here, and I don't want them to be too drastic, nor do I want them to be too subtle. So there we go. I think that will do. And I'll click OK to confirm. All right. So now you can see the text sort of has a 3D effect because of the bevel and emboss layer style. Adding an adjustment layer. This was something that Photopia as a program was having trouble doing as far as I could tell. But on a regular Photoshop program, you would use human saturation, the human saturation icon in the adjustments panel. Now what I can do is adjust the hue and saturation even in Photopia. So let's see how that will work. I'll use the Tubman layer. I'm going to click on image, then adjustments. Then I'm going to go down until I see hue and saturation. Okay, and this layer is telling me that, Photopia is telling me that this layer must be first rasterized. Okay, so by adjusting the hue, the text is no longer blue. It's now, yellow, it's now blue. And by adjusting saturation, that blue is a more desaturated blue. So I'm going to click OK to confirm those changes. Updating layer effects. Okay, I think this is another one where Photoshop does it, but Photopia does not. Okay, adding a border. All right, so I will make a new layer. Excuse me. I'll make a new layer right here by clicking on the new layer button. Then I'll go to select, modify, and border. Border. So it's disabled for this particular layer. Let's try it on another layer because I think that, I think it actually did come through. I think it maybe just be my technology running slow. Layer, modify, and borders that we're looking for, but I'm going to go ahead and see if it works on another option. Looks like maybe not. So we'll try it here. Layer, modify, select, modify, border. Okay, then I'm not satisfied with how that turned out. Let's find out what happened. Select white for the foreground color, then choose edit, fill. Okay, so let me see. Now that I have my new layer, I'm going to do select all, and I'm going to choose select, modify, border in order to add a border. Select, modify, border. It seems as though there's a lot of ways to do things like adding borders. Selection dialog box. In the selection dialog box, select your point, your pixel value that you desire. All right, so I'll change the border to 5. See how that works. Clicking OK to confirm. I think my computer's just going slowly. All right. And now I can flatten my image by selecting all of the layers and selecting to flatten it. First, let me make sure that I'm satisfied with the results. I do think I want to move this letter R for trademark over into the corner, as well as change the rotation and size. I'll press enter to confirm that move, and I'll deselect by holding command and pressing D. Now I'm going to hold control and press T, and I'm going to rotate it using the handles. I'm also going to move it a little up. Now I'm going to shrink it much, much more, holding shift to keep this shrinking uniform. All right, now I'm pressing enter to confirm that move. And I'm deciding that the rotation doesn't really look good. So I'm holding control and I'm pressing T. Now I'm holding shift, and as I rotate, it's going to keep me uniform. I'm holding command and pressing the plus sign to zoom in. And sometimes I hold command and D just to make a deselection when you have some issues. All right, so I've got the rotation changed, and that will conclude my project. Once I set these, once I adjust these to be a flat image, I'm going to hold shift as I click on the bottommost item and the topmost item, holding shift, and thus it selects all of the layers. With all of these layers, the next step is to merge them by right clicking, rather not merge, but flatten. I'm going to right click, I'm going to click flatten image, and at this point I have one image instead of all these different layers. So I'm going to use file, save as PSD, and then I'm going to do File, save as JPG, and I'll be submitting this to you, and I'll go ahead and do the highest quality. All right. All right. All right. So I have my final versions here. And the last step is to submit the JPG and the PSD to you from the flattened image. So I think that will conclude this recording. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. And I'll go ahead and end this. Thank you.